Hello. So, once again, I am recovering from a bug given to me by my daughters. It's just part of the life when you have small children, I guess. I was basically down with the fever and congestion for a good part of this weekend. And, but I feel a lot better. My wife's still kind of feeling it, but I feel better. And so you know what we're going to do today? The first thing that comes back from my palate after an illness is American whiskey for some reason. For some reason, like I'm just able to taste good old American oak and grains after an illness better than just about anything else. So we are going to do two American single malt whiskeys and also two high malt bourbons from Chattanooga Whiskey. I've been meaning to taste these forever, and we're finally going to get to it today. So that's the plan. Let's get these poured. We have got Cedar Ridge, the quintessential American single malt whiskey. Not sure which batch this is. We've got Balcones. I just bought this. This is the Lineage from Texas. I haven't had a whole lot of this yet. It's kind of serving as the house whiskey at the moment. And then these two guys. And I think I still have the mash bill for the. We'll talk about these in detail as we get to them. But let me finish getting these poured. Sorry, we're kind of shooting on the fly today. All right, so starting with Cedar Ridge, here we go. Notes. Sorry, like I said, doing this on the fly. All right, so it was aged 3 to 5 years in ex-bourbon, and then they did what they're calling a finish. I would call it secondary maturation in a whole slew of different casks for 2 years. And then they're kind of marrying them together. So you're talking, what, 5 to 7 year old malt whiskey from Iowa. Bottled at 46%. Seems pretty good. On the nose. You know, I've really enjoyed Cedar Ridge basically ever since I encountered them at basically whiskey festivals like, what, 10, 12 years ago. Like they just always seem to have this little herbaceous edge that I wasn't getting, particularly in a lot of other American whiskeys at the time. And it's here. There's just this little hint of like oregano and dill. Maybe some parsley in there. There's also some, I don't know what to call it. There's a particular kind of generalized spice bomb kind of effect you get, particularly when you're using a lot of like dry wine casks, a lot of like, especially like red dry wine casks, or maybe some port casks. It's you know, it smells a little bit like you were trying to flavor up you know, a pie, and you got a little bit crazy with it, and you know, it's just like, is that nutmeg? Is that ginger? Let's have cinnamon? Let's have all of them. And it just got a little bit too much. There's a little bit of that kind of wine cask spice bomb thing going on here. Not too much. It's not kind of blowing it out, but it's there. You got the Cedar Ridge herbaceousness and just some really nice malty notes. Cornflakes, weirdly enough. Malted milk balls. Green apple, pear. Vanilla. Touches of like cream of wheat. Yeah, you could probably still hear it. I'm still a little bit congested, but the notes on this are still kind of coming through pretty well. There's a little bit of like some kind of black tea. Like an Irish breakfast tea, but not like overstewed. It's just like normal stewed Irish breakfast tea. Nice. I mean, yeah, it smells like a nice malt whiskey. It's if you hand this to me, I don't know if I'd be able to call America, much less Iowa, but yeah, I mean it's a good malt whiskey. It does what it says on the label. On the palate, that kind of like spice explosion thing is more apparent on the palate. It's not completely throwing it off, but it's there. Um, so again, you can pick out like nutmeg, ginger, cinnamon, maybe a little bit of cardamom, allspice, clove, um, a little bit of kind of a leafiness. But then your usual kind of nice malty, kind of herbaceous floral thing. A little bit of parsley again, a little bit of basil, dried flowers. Cream of wheat with some, again, apple and pear slices mixed in. Some nice artisanal milk chocolate thrown in there. What is the name of the cereal that's like, it's like peanut butter, the little peanut butter puffy cereal? Whatever those are. There's a little bit of that in there, peanut butter cereal. Vanilla Irish breakfast tea again. Little hints of like campfire leftovers, some like burned twigs and leaves and stuff. I mean, it's not hugely complex and it isn't showing a ton of age. And it's not showing like really any deep tertiary notes of any kind. But it's very pleasant. I'm kind of into that. I could drink that. I will give that a squirt of water and we'll come back to it. All right, now the Balcones, which is less expensive, and a percent stronger. This is 47%. So this is kind of the relatively new product from Balcones. This is the Lineage Single Malt, and this is their attempt at making a slightly softer, I think, lighter style of single malt than their standard single malt range. So they're using some Texas barley along with some sort of Scottish and some Golden Promise. It isn't super duper old. This is only 36 months in oak. That's plenty of time in Texas, especially when there's some fresh, non-refill oak involved, which there is. So yeah, a lot of people are critical of Balcones, me sometimes too, but there's a time and a place. I really enjoy what these folks do a lot of the time. So let's see what we got here. By the way, this is not just one of the cheapest American single malt whiskeys on the shelf. It's one of the cheapest. Once you're outside of the really watered down 40% branded stuff, this is one of the cheapest single malts on the shelf. Period. You can get this in Chicago for $40. 47%, 3 years old, not too bad value-wise, at least on paper. On the nose. So there was a particular kind of profile that was common in the very, very early days of American single malts and craft distilleries kind of kicking up. like after the first generation with St. George and Clear Creek and those folks, I'm talking like, you know, again, 10 or 15 years ago, that first generation of folks who were like, hey, we can buy malted barley and ferment it and distill it. And hey, we can buy these half-size barrels from Kentucky. That style. There's a little bit of that style on this. It's a better version of that style. So it isn't like punching me in the face with cherry wood, but there is like an intense charred cherry wood sort of note. A lot of like sawdust, smoked hardwoods. A little bit of like a balsamic vinegar note with a little bit of vanilla in there, like aged balsamico. Sawdust, pickled ginger. Certainly some grassiness. Like elote, like burned elote they kind of kept in the grill too long. Kind of some chocolatey elements, maybe dark chocolate. I want to say overstewed tea, but it's not really. It's more like just like straight up black tea leaves, like just a pile of, you know, Assam and maybe some Darjeeling in there. We're very close. I mean, it's there's a lot of cask and a lot of like intensely kind of grassy or slightly, you know, green distillate. They haven't really married that much. There's a kind of a sense of oiliness to this. There's complexity here, but there's also just a sense of youth. Let's put it that way. You know what? There's a little bit of a nod. I know, you know, they're trying to make with the Golden Promise thing, they're trying to make a nod towards Scotland, but if anything, there's more of an Irish kind of play here. It's almost like some mashed, I don't know, root vegetables going on, some mashed sweet potatoes on the palate. Tricky. Number one, young. Very young. Everything that's happening is happening right at the front of my mouth. It's kind of crawling back past like my middle teeth to my molars a little bit. A little bit is getting past the very front, but not a whole lot. Like this is all about, you know, immediate impact, pow. The finish is okay. It hangs on a moderate length of time, but it doesn't like none of that flavor is getting any further back than my molars, really. It's all up front. It's all immediate. It's pretty much, and it's all cask and distillate. No real tertiary flavors and no real like sense that they've completely married yet. That being said, there's a lot of flavor here. Again, black pepper, dark chocolate, earthy chocolate, black tea leaves, hardwood smoke, cherry smoke in particular, little mesquite. We might even be flirting with a little bit of hickory here, but hickory's pretty strong, so probably not. Oak smoke, oh yeah, definitely. Vanilla. distinct sense of like dead grass. Black pepper. It has this very kind of bitter burn finish, and I know that doesn't sound super nice, but I mean it's kind of it's pleasant. It's I bet this would go well with food, actually. On its own, it feels a little bit, brutal is the wrong word. It feels a little bit like cerebral. It's a little bit angular. It's a little baroque. But I would have this with some brisket or something. I think that would work. Yeah, smoky, campfirey, chocolatey. Again, it puts me in the mind of like that early first generation of, you know, the copper foxes and the oh god, the Corsair triple smoke and some of those which were really just not very good. But it's taking a lot of those notes and kind of making it work. It's still very, very young, but yeah, I don't regret purchasing this at all, and it's a fun thing to have lying around the house. But at the same time, this is not something I would throw to someone as a representation of what I would think single malt is. It's more like, what if Ireland just got smacked with a whole bunch of like oak and tea leaves? It's something like that. Let's give that a squirt of water as well. And on to these two I've been meaning to try. This is Chattanooga Whiskey, high malt Tennessee bourbon, and I will straight bourbon actually, and I will give you. I couldn't find an exact. Sorry, I'm getting notifications like crazy. I had a hard time finding the exact mash bill on this, but I will tell you what is going into it: yellow corn, malted rye, caramel malted barley, and honey malted barley. So. No green rye on this. It shouldn't be very herbaceous. This should just be very kind of rhubarby. So I'm super excited to try this. 111 proof, I believe. So 55.1% alcohol. And yeah, you're kind of getting... Okay, you're kind of getting elote again, but it's like properly cooked this time. But then you're gonna like take your elote and you're gonna smash it into a rhubarb pie, and that's kind of what this smells like. Yeah, I'm having a hard time smelling anything beyond that now. Like rhubarb pie elote is a lot of this. American oak, vanilla, dry cherry. There is a little bit of an herbaceousness to this, but it's like an alpine kind of character. It's a little bit of like almost like some dried pine needles happening. A touch of like wood smoke, like campfire smoke. I know this is, I've had these lying around for a while now. I think this was the first release, so it's going to be, what, 4 years old? I like the nose. It's got some notes I'm really enjoying, but it's not a super duper complex nose. The notes that are there are vivid, but there aren't that many of them. So it's really like rhubarb pie elote, the American oaky notes, a little bit of wood smoke, a touch of oatmeal in there maybe, and black pepper. That's really about it. I hate everything. I will pause and I will come back. All right, the delivery person was buzzed in successfully. Yeah, that's kind of all I'm getting on the palate. Um, to quote the strength program, big but boring. I mean, boring is unfair. It is a little bit boring. It's so okay. So we're getting, yeah. There's a toasted corniness to this. Good corn though. Good toasted corn. Dried cherry, vanilla, wood smoke, campfire smoke. Some graininess, like a really good black rye bread, Lithuanian rye bread, something like that. Touch of rhubarb again. And it certainly, in some ways, it actually fills up the mouth more than the Balcones does. But I mean, it should. It's considerably stronger. But you know, it still feels a little bit young and simple. That said, this is not super duper expensive. So, you know, that's fine for what this is delivering. I think that's okay. Let's move on. I've just realized I'm quickly running out of time. The time I have to do this. 2, 3, I'm gonna go 4. Ain't got time to check. We're gonna move on. Now this is, I think, the same stuff. This is a Chattanooga Whiskey single barrel pick from Seelbach. And this is about 4 years old, 59.4%. I don't think you can buy this anymore, obviously, but you can buy something like this. A little bit of a similar vibe, but we're less rhubarby. So it's toasted corn again, but now we're getting much more of like a almost cigar box element, or even like being inside a cooperage. A cooperage burning down. Let's get that. Cooperage on fire. Something went horribly wrong in the barrel charring process. So yeah, sawdust flying around on fire, vanilla. Some of that kind of like Baltic rye bread, sourdough rye bread thing happening. Oh, there's a little bit of rhubarb pie creeping in now. Black cherry. Black pepper, cinnamon. Little touches of like garden mint on the palate. This actually comes across as like more substantive and more mature than the high malt, although it can't. I don't think this can be particularly like a whole lot older, really. It just maybe different place in the warehouse or something. Interesting. Much more of a campfire smoke kind of element coming through. So well, campfire smoke, but also with kind of that burning cooperage kind of character. Like there's just a lot of like fiery American oak stuff happening. Sawdust, vanilla. But then you still have your toasted elote. You still have even a little bit of like a creamed corn kind of element. Like a little bit of a fermenting corn, that kind of thing. That's fun. Usually a lot of the time when I have like a bourbon, I don't actually get a lot of corny elements. On this one, I actually do. It's in the context of other stuff, but yeah. Baltic rye bread. Like, go try some Baltic rye bread. It's actually surprisingly fruity. It's like an earthy fruitiness. Whence my connection in my brain with like rhubarb pie, but it's distinctive. Go try some. Yeah, kind of a smoke, flame, ash-driven, mildly fruity style of bourbon. It works for me. I think this is probably a better bourbon than these standard high malt. But for me, I might actually, as something I would like to own, I might actually prefer the standard high malt. I feel like it's a little bit different. It's like I like that kind of elote in rhubarb pie thing it's bringing. But it's the water that will tell the tale. 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what, 59.4? So that should probably do it. All right, let's finish up. Cedar Ridge. And then with water. Oh. The strawberry from I'm assuming the red wine cask, and a little bit of caramel comes out. And it sort of works. It's just kind of like sitting on top of the fruity, appley, peary stuff rather nicely. I mean, honestly, this puts me in mind of maybe the Balcones has just got me thinking about Ireland, but it puts me in mind of some of the younger Irish whiskeys I've tasted from younger Irish distilleries over the years. This has got a little bit of that character. It's a very clean American oak vanilla character with lots of like just beautiful fruity notes, grainy notes, and then like a little bit of that. The water clears up the kind of spice explosion thing. It kind of resolves a little bit. A little bit of color, a little bit of spice, and kind of strawberry stuff coming from the wine cask. I'm not going to score this out of this world. I will give it an 84, though. 84 points for the Cedar Ridge QuintEssential. Moving on. Let's see if I can kill this in a couple of minutes. All right, Balcones Lineage. Actually, water brings this together pretty nicely. You still to like your overstewed black tea and your like just kind of earthy grassiness, that kind of profile, like grassy black tea, but not pu'er. Surprisingly, this doesn't smell like pu'er, despite that note. But it works. Like it's a little bit. There's a little bit of sweetness coming through now. Some like brown sugar, but like real brown sugar coming through. Vanilla. Yeah, on the palate. Still young. Everything that's happening is happening up front. It's starting to tickle my molars a little more now than it was before, but there's nothing going past that. Quite young, but I mean, kind of delicious. It just feels like a good marriage of, let's say, the style of an Irishy barley-based whiskey. Let's keep it vague, and American whiskey. Like it's a good marriage of those two styles. That's not too expensive. Also improves with water. Grainy, vanilla, lots of black tea, tannins, that kind of slight balsamico note. I thought I was going to be mean to this when I poured it and started initially taking notes, but no, I think this deserves a better score than I was going to give it. I'm going to give this an 80. It's not as good as the Cedar Ridge, which is a little bit more conventional, but I'm still going to give this an 83 plus. Like, I think it's worth a grab. If anything I've talked about sounds like it's like in your wheelhouse at all, I think this is worth taking the risk. It's not at all a bad whiskey to have lying around the house. All right, on the moving on to the Chattanoogas. The high malt might have been the softest in the nose of all of these on the first round through. And it still is like on the second round. There might be a little bit of more sweetness coming through now, almost like a raisin bread kind of thing. But yeah, it's on the nose pretty restrained, but I do like kind of the elements that I'm getting. That like, so now it's like street corn dipped in rhubarb pie and then wrapped in a piece of raisin bread. And that's fun on the palate. That comes out nicely with water, actually. It's so, again, the sweetness comes through, but also there's some spice elements coming through, more clove, more black pepper. I'm going to be honest with you. The dropper, most of the time when I add water to things on this little YouTube channel, I expected to do basically nothing. I expected to just maybe deaden things down, flatten things out. There's a bunch of predictable reactions that I expect. And, every once in a while, I mean, more common than every once in a while, reasonably commonly, but not that commonly, things get better when you add water. And this is like 3 whiskeys in a row where I've added some water, and they've kind of stepped up. They've improved for me markedly. This is another one. It's kind of right there with the Cedar Ridge, I think. Yeah, same score as the Cedar Ridge. I'm going to give this an 84. 84 points for Chattanooga High Malt Bourbon. And the Seelbach pick. I need some water. Hold on. Let's do this quickly. Water brings out some toffee notes, almost a salted toffee thing. Kind of tones down the smokiness as well on the palate. Ooh. And this is one, that if anything does not like water. Yeah. Water really brings out the pepper and the tannins in a way that is not, that I'm not enjoying very much. Yikes. One more try. No, that's not alcohol heat. It's just, yeah, it's brought out the pepper and the tannins. Okay, so this is a tricky one. Coming into the second round, I really thought this would pip the high malt in terms of absolute quality, even though I kind of like I liked the high malt more. But no, I think on, you know, coming into this second round, no, I think the water just brings this down. So I'm going to give this like, I'm going to score this like an 82, which is really kind of like 83 minus 1. So think of it more of as 83 minus 1 than an 82, but it's an 82. And yeah, that's it. That's the video. So how things shake out. The Seelbach pick, which I was kind of expecting to run this table, actually came in a DFL, 82 points. And then the Balcones, 83 plus, 84 for the Chattanooga high malt, and the Cedar Ridge QuintEssential. Sorry. And that's the video. Thanks for watching and cheers.